Good day, my little robins. It's me, Beth. Another week has passed, which means you get another video from, well, me here on this channel. If you haven't already read the title, today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my top 10 anime, be it, completed series, ongoing, or if a series is up in the air, whether or not it's getting another series. Yeah, this list is going to be very personal and close to my heart. If you disagree with some of my picks, then, feel free to tell me some of your top anime in the comments, Why not start a conversation? But before we begin this very controversial and opinionated list, be sure to click like, click subscribe and tap that bell to be notified of when I upload on this channel. Enough rambling, let's just dive into some anime. The first anime I'm going to talk about is kind of a sticking point in the anime manga community as a whole. I'm talking about the pirate anime One Piece. It has definitely stood the test of time and not everyone likes it. Some people love it, some people hate it. There are over 900 episodes, you've got 10 plus movies, and you've got a fine voice actor cast over the years. There are some pretty big names who have voiced characters in this series, and like I've already mentioned, it stands the test of time. Personally, when I was younger, I think I went through a phase where I wanted to be a pirate, and now that I'm older, I have a swashbuckling anime to keep my dream alive. Next up is football sport anime Inazuma 11, and this is one of my personal favourites. I go back to this anime time after time. Yes, you can play the video games if you don't really want to watch the anime, but if you want to watch the anime, it follows Raymond Jr. High's football team as they struggle to recruit players and beat the best teams. But with every underdog story, they do eventually, rise up and they do beat the best teams. Mark, who is the captain of the football team and is also the goalkeeper, is both motivational and annoying as a character, and I'm pretty sure all the male characters at some point have gone you know what, Mark's an alright guy, I would follow him to the end. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is one character later on in the series that pretty much admits to having a crush on Mark, so yeah, he's just one of those characters that people are drawn to him. Also, what elevates this sport anime is that each player has a special ability, that enhances the game. For example, the defense can quite literally create a wall that stops the ball from going anywhere near the goal. With over 100 episodes, several arcs, intense and heart-pounding drama, Inazuma 11 is a sport anime that I believe a lot of people can watch, and hopefully, it gets a few more people into sport anime. I actually never knew how much I liked sport anime until I was making this top 10 list. One of the newer animes, to make it onto my list, premiered in late 2019, and I'm talking about Fire Force. This is from the creator of Soul Eater, which is a fabulous manga and a fabulous anime, but I'm talking about their latest, Fire Force, here on my top 10 anime. You follow Fire Company 8, as they try and discover why humans are self-combusting and turning into killer infernals. You never really know who the bad guy is. There's so many twists and turns, you don't know who you can trust, and this series throws at you so many red herrings in the form of other fire companies who, might have some secrets they don't want revealed, so you think you're the bad guy, but it turns out 2 episodes later, no, they're actually the good guys, they're just misunderstood. It has some of the best, I would say, character development, especially for a new series. As of filming this video and uploading it, season 1 is currently wrapped, so if you want to get into a new series and you don't want to be daunted by too many episodes, then I highly recommend Fire Force, because I believe there's 23 or 24 episodes. There's not a lot, you can pretty much binge it in a day. When I talk about card captors, I am talking about the 2000s dub that I grew up obsessing over. You follow Sakura, who actually opens a book she's not meant to open, and she releases a bunch of cloud cards into the world. These cloud cards each have their own special abilities, for example fly, jump, time. I could sing you one of the catchiest dub openings, but I'm not going to because I'm not drunk. I have sung that opening drunk many a times. I know it word for word. I'm going off point. She pairs up with her best friend Madison and fellow card capturer and love interest Lee as they try and capture all these cloud cards to stop them being mischievous and causing trouble all around, well, Japan, because that's where it's set. This series also has one of my favourite animal companions in the form of Kiro. He is the keeper of the cloud cards, and so when Sakura opens the book, He's there to act as like a narrator for the audience to kind of tell us what's going on. There are so many like plot points that you'll definitely watch this series and be like, oh, how did I miss that the first time? Card captors is amazing. When I was younger, I wanted to be Sakura. I wanted to collect clow cards, and if I'm being honest with you, I'm just going to say it now, I actually do have a deck of clow cards I bought off the internet. It is currently at my parents' home. I might bring it back and show you guys in a future video. Ouran High School Host Club pretty much dominated like the majority of my high school days. It is still one of my favourite animes, and even though I'm in my mid-20s, I find myself, you know, going back and watching it over and over again. You pretty much follow the host club. It's a bunch of rich boys entertaining a bunch of rich girls at some posh school until a girl dressed as a boy knocks over an expensive vase and has to pay off their debt by working in the host club. The other hosts are really shocked and surprised to find out she's a girl, and that's where the comedic hijinks like ensue, especially when she is a really big hit with the ladies who just like the fact that she can understand them on an emotional level. At the start you might not like some of the hosts. I know personally when I probably first watched it I was like, oh, they're a little bit obnoxious, they're a little bit too like rich boy, but each character gets one or two like episodes to really show like their character arc, their development. You learn more about their backstory, what makes them tick, and what makes them more relatable. By the end of this series, you will have a favourite character. For me personally, my favourite are the mischievous twins. If you want something like light-hearted, something fun, something you don't have to think too much about, then Ouran High School Host Club might just be the anime for you. Haikyuu is the second sport anime, you know, to make it onto my list, but unlike Inazuma 11, which focused on football, Haikyuu is all about volleyball, because I never knew high school volleyball was actually a thing until I started watching this series. You follow Hinata, otherwise known as the Short Giant. He's very short, but he has a passion for volleyball which sees him get a spot on the high school team. I can personally relate because I'm quite short, and especially sports in England that I played in high school such as netball really put me at a disadvantage when I was put against really tall girls who, you know, the ball just went over me. Yeah. I'm going back to like high school trauma. That's not what this is about. If I'm being honest, it does follow a lot of similar tropes and like character development and story arcs to Inazuma 11, so it's not really much different in the sense that any sports anime, you have the underdog team, they want to be the best, they don't start off the best, so I don't really want to rehash what I've already said about Inazuma 11. The only difference is the fact that this is volleyball instead of football. But Haikyuu currently has, you know, over like 80 episodes and is still ongoing, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So after you've checked out Inazuma 11, be sure to check out Haikyuu because it has some of my favourite characters and some of my favourite like comedic moments in an anime. Unlike the manga, which is tolerated, Vampire Knight the anime is very polarising and can split the anime community down the half. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm on the kind of middle ground, you know, it's probably my guilty pleasure anime that I wouldn't really outright admit to most people that I watch and still watch, but I do. I'm admitting it now on YouTube. I like Vampire Knight. Anyway, I'm harking back to my high school days because when Vampire Knight came out, it was at the same time that vampires were becoming like pop culture. It was like a craze. I'm talking about Twilight. So maybe it was a hit and miss depending on like what time it actually got released. Does it have the best writing? The short answer is no. Does it have some interesting characters outside of the main love triangle? Yes, I just wish some of those vampires got more screen time because they are a lot more interesting than like the lead. Oh, she is so tedious. I hate her. She's the one thing I have against this anime, and the love triangle in general is a bit stupid and a bit cliche. You're probably thinking, Beth, then why did you put it on your top 10? If you're a bit 50-50 on the fence about it. And it's because I have really fond memories of this being one of the first like anime I really got into. In high school I would watch an episode and then the next day I could come into school and talk about it with my friends and we would have these great discussions, and I really felt for the first time that I belonged. So that's why it made it into my top 10, because I have fond memories. At the time Vampire Knight was probably popular, but then you compare it to vampire animes nowadays such as like Seraph of the End and even Castlevania, then it doesn't really age well despite being a vampire anime. Ugh. I don't care if I get shit for putting Vampire Knight on my list, especially this high up, but yeah, it's a hit or miss. I like it most days, I hate it other days. I feel like I've been shoving this manga down a lot of people's throats, especially since the start of 2020, but now Beastars has an anime on Netflix. I can just sit back and, you know, watch the seeds I planted, you know, grow and be like, yes, it's a great anime. Beastars pretty much follows herbivores and carnivores. They're animals, they live side by side, they work side by side, but there's always going to be tension, especially in the opening episode where you have a herbivore student is murdered in high school and everyone suspects that it's another carnivore student, but no one knows exactly who it is, which creates tension. And this is really a modern anime in the way that it kind of like has a different take on society. Because yes, you've got these teen animals going through all like this angst, all this drama, all this love. It's very relatable to humans and what we go through during our teen years. Okay, sure we don't kill anyone, but we've dreamed. Oh, there's always that one person that you know you wouldn't mind hurting, but you don't really do it. So I like how it is a take on teenagers. They've just put it in like the setting of herbivores and carnivores, but the struggles are real whether you're a wolf, a deer, a rabbit, a fox, a human. We all have like the same emotions. Beastars is definitely up there. If you can get past the first episode of Goblin Slayer, then you can go like the distance and watch the whole series. There are a lot of precious snowflakes who really pass judgment on this anime after only watching one episode, which is where I feel the need, you know, to fight, you know, to tell people to give it a second chance, because after episode 1, Goblin Slayer opens up and becomes so much better. Goblin Slayer is a fantasy RPG. It's set in a world, you know, D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. If you don't know what that is by now, go Google it. You follow Priestess, a young girl, or cleric, because she's pretty much the healer in the party. She goes through a trauma, which is where a lot of precious snowflakes got their feelings hurt. She pairs up with Goblin Slayer, whose main feat in life is to murder goblins and nothing else. Along the way they are joined by like an elf, a shaman and a fighter. And that's where the narrative really opens up and it changes Goblin Slayer's like view on life. Now he has friends and an adventuring party to go adventuring with, and maybe he'll learn to kill other things other than goblins. It is definitely a dark fantasy through and through. There are dark elements, there is gore, I'm not going to like sugarcoat it. But the series in their writing is very good at finding like the comedic, light-hearted moments, especially before and after a serious fight in the character interaction, especially between the main cast. At all times it is very high stake and there's a lot of tension, but if like the series and the characters can kind of like release a little bit of tension, as an audience, you know, it's not intense and it's not like thrown out as like intense gore 24/7. Goblin Slayer, I really hope it gets a season 2, although I've heard that they're working on like the origin story of Goblin Slayer. I don't know if that's being turned into a film. Fingers crossed it gets a second season despite all the precious snowflakes hating it. Check out Goblin Slayer and, you know, get back to me. Rounding off my top 10 anime is Full Metal Alchemist, and no, I am not talking about Brotherhood. Everyone loves Brotherhood, but I feel like the 2003 anime gets overlooked and kind of pushed aside. Full Metal Alchemist does stay faithful to the manga, especially at the start of the series, but at the time of making the anime, the manga was still like incomplete, so the writers took a little bit of creative freedom and a little creative liberty in changing the ending and like adding and taking away characters. So it's a completely different ending to Brotherhood because the manga was incomplete, but it seemed like the creators were pretty chill with the writers like taking a different direction. Mei's Yu still dies, spoiler alert. The death is a lot more gut-wrenching, I believe, in like the 2003 version. That funeral scene still gets me teary-eyed at, you know, 25. I've watched that scene countless times in Brotherhood and it just doesn't have the same impact, and I think it's because there were less episodes in the 2003 one that, you know, they kind of had to like hit hard with each episode. Now Full Metal Alchemist does keep the same majority voice cast going into Brotherhood, so you don't have to worry about like Ed and like Mustang being voiced by different voice actors. They were very good in that regard, so it was kind of like a smooth transition. The one change in voice actor that I was kind of happy with was the voice actor who voiced Alphonse. I hated Alphonse in the 2003 version, but then they replaced her in the Brotherhood series and they would go on to voice one of my favourite Tokyo Ghoul characters, Juzo, so yeah. Voice actors pretty much stayed the same apart from like a few changes. I feel like Brotherhood is amazing. It's definitely one of those animes that I would recommend to people. But if you are a fan of Brotherhood like I am, and you haven't given the 2003 anime a chance, I really want some people to go back and watch it, because then you can make your own comparisons. Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist rounds off my top 10 anime list. I hope you guys have learned something about me and my anime taste. I know some of you are going to hate my picks, so feel free in the comments to recommend some anime to me or share your own top 10 anime. Yeah, that's what the comments are for. This is the end of the video. If you want to support me and the channel, you can in the future by clicking like to show me some love. You can click subscribe and tap that bell to be notified of when I upload on this channel. You can check out my last 2 videos or playlists at the end of this video, depending on what mood I'm in when I'm editing. Until next time, I'm Beth. Goodbye.